Welcome to the channel. Love and money, two factors that often stir up trouble in relationships. In today's story, we'll see a breakup where one person chose love while the other kept the assets. Sounds fair, right? But life always has unexpected twists. Who will be the one to realize the true value of what they gave up? Stick around until the end of the video to find out. Remember to like, share, and leave a comment telling us what you'd choose in a similar situation.
The Asheville, North Carolina evening draped itself over Evan Parker's rental home, a modern craftsman-style house with cedar siding and a sprawling backyard framed by a wooden fence. The air carried the faint scent of pine from the nearby Blue Ridge Mountains, mingling with the hum of crickets as the sun dipped below the horizon. Inside, Evan, 32, sat at his kitchen table, his laptop glowing with code, but his hazel eyes were fixed on a security camera feed playing on his phone. The grainy footage showed his backyard empty now, but the audio, Sarah's voice calling, "Buddy, come here," boy looped in his mind like a bitter refrain. Buddy, his golden Labrador, was gone, taken by his ex-girlfriend in a move as calculated as it was cruel. Evan, a freelance programmer, was no stranger to problem-solving. His lean frame and tousled dark hair often hunched over complex algorithms. But this Sarah's betrayal, her theft of Buddy, was a puzzle he couldn't code his way out of. Buddy wasn't just a pet. He was Evan's anchor, a loyal companion trained with care and love from basic commands to professional sessions Evan had paid for. The dog's absence left the house eerily quiet, the doggy door in the back flapping uselessly, a reminder of Sarah's audacity. She'd known the camera's blind spot slipped into the yard and called Buddy through that small door her voice captured, by the audio Evan hadn't realized would betray her. Sarah Miller, 30, had been Evan's girlfriend for 2 years, her marketing job fueling her ambition, but also her selfishness. Their relationship had frayed months ago, her attention drifting back to an ex who lived with his parents, a move Evan saw as a step backward. When she announced she was leaving, Evan had been hurt, but relieved until she demanded half of everything, including Buddy and their joint savings, despite contributing far less. The house rented in Evan's name before they'd even met was non-negotiable. But Buddy, that was a line she shouldn't have crossed. Sarah had never walked him, grumbled at his messes yet, now claimed to love him, a ploy Evan saw through but couldn't legally fight. The trouble started 3 days ago after their breakup turned ugly. Sarah had moved out her belongings packed in a rush, but she'd texted demands, "I want Buddy," and half the savings. Evan had laughed at the audacity. She'd barely fed Buddy, let alone loved him, but her next move stunned him. He'd come home from a coffee shop expecting Buddy's joyful bark, only to find the backyard empty, the doggy door ajar, and Sarah's voice on the security footage. She'd exploited the camera's dead angles, but her shouting for Buddy had been her mistake. A detail Evan clung to as he drove to the Asheville police station, his heart pounding. Officer Daniels, a weathered man of 45 with a kind but firm demeanor, had listened patiently as Evan played the footage, his voice tight with anger. "She took my dog, broke into my yard," Evan said, his hands gesturing wildly. "That's theft, right?" Daniel sighed, his pen tapping the desk. "It's messy, Mr. Parker. You weren't married. No cohabitation agreement. No clear ownership of the dog. The footage shows her calling him, but not breaking in. Without proof, she entered illegally. My hands are tied." Evan's jaw clenched, his frustration boiling. "So she just gets away with it." Daniels leaned forward, his voice low. "Get a lawyer, document everything. And maybe try talking to her." Talking was futile. Sarah ignored his calls. Her text curt, "Buddy's fine. We'll talk about the money soon." Evan, desperate, drove to her parents' house, a modest ranch-style home on the edge of town, hoping to reason with her. He stood on the porch, his knuckles rapping the door, when a familiar bark, Buddy's deep, excited woof, pierced the quiet. Evan's heart leapt, his voice calling Buddy, "It's me." The barking grew frantic, paws scratching at the door, but Sarah's mother, a stern woman with graying hair, cracked it open just enough to speak. "He's with Sarah," she said, her tone clipped. "You need to leave." As Evan pleaded, Buddy's barks intensified, but she shut the door, the lock clicking like a final blow. Evan drove home, his hands gripping the wheel, the Asheville skyline fading in his rear view. He called Mia Torres, his best friend, a real estate agent, whose blunt humor always grounded him. Mia, 35, answered on the first ring, her voice warm but ready for battle. She did what Mia said, incredulous, as Evan recounted the story. "Sarah stole Buddy, that's low, even for her. What's the plan?" Evan exhaled, his voice steadying. "I don't know yet. Police can't help, she's dodging me and Buddy's stuck. But I'm not letting her win." Mia's laugh crackled through the phone. "That's my boy. Come over tomorrow. We'll strategize. And bring coffee." At home, Evan sat on the couch, the silence oppressive without Buddy's snores. The backyard, visible through the glass doors, felt like a crime scene, its doggy door a betrayal. He replayed the security footage, Sarah's voice taunting him, and noticed the joint bank account app on his phone, its balance a mix of his savings and her smaller contributions. An idea sparked, risky but bold. The money could be leverage, a way to force Sarah's hand. He leaned back, his mind racing, the weight of losing Buddy fueling his resolve. Sarah thought she'd outsmarted him, but Evan wasn't done fighting, not for Buddy, not for justice. Mia arrived the next morning, her dark curls bouncing, her coffee mug emblazoned with "Boss Lady." She surveyed the backyard, noting the camera angles, and grinned. "She's sneaky, but sloppy," Mia said, pointing at the doggy door. "We'll fix those blind spots, and then we hit her where it hurts." Evan nodded, his jaw set. The house, the money, the dog, Sarah wanted it all, but Buddy was family, and Evan would protect him no matter the cost. As the Asheville sun climbed, casting shadows across the fence, Evan felt a fire kindling, a determination to reclaim what was his, one clever move at a time. The Asheville air was thick with the scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke as Evan Parker stood in his backyard, the morning light filtering through the wooden fence that had failed to protect Buddy. At 32, Evan was a man accustomed to solving problems, bugs in code, glitches in apps. But the theft of his golden Labrador by his ex-girlfriend Sarah Miller was a wound that no algorithm could mend. The house, a modern rental with its cedar shingles and glass doors, felt hollow. Without Buddy's joyful bounds, the doggy door in the back now a symbol of betrayal. Sarah's voice, captured on security footage, calling Buddy, "Come here, boy," echoed in Evan's mind, fueling a resolve that burned brighter with each passing day. Inside, Mia Torres, Evan's best friend, paced the kitchen, her dark curls bouncing as she sipped coffee from her Boss Lady mug. At 35, Mia was a graphic designer whose sharp humor and no-nonsense attitude had pulled Evan through darker times, and now she was all in ready to help him reclaim Buddy. The security footage replayed on Evan's laptop showed Sarah exploiting the camera's blind spots, but her shouting had been recorded, a mistake that gave them a small edge. "She's cunning, but she's sloppy," Mia said, her eyes glinting as she pointed to the frozen frame of the backyard. "We shut down those dead angles and we hit her where it hurts." "What's the next move?" Evan leaned against the counter, his hazel eyes narrowing as he considered the joint bank account, a pool of savings he'd contributed 80% to, which Sarah now demanded half of. The idea of her taking Buddy, the dog he'd trained and loved for Jake and cared for through sleepless nights and muddy walks, was unbearable, but the money gave him leverage. "She wants the cash," he said, his voice low. "I'm thinking we can use it to force her hand." "No Buddy, no money." Mia's grin widened. "That's my boy," she said, her tone approving. "Risky but bold. Let's make her sweat. First, we fix the cameras, nobody sneaking in again." The next morning, Evan and Mia installed new cameras, their lenses covering every inch of the backyard, eliminating the blind spots Sarah had let Sarah slip through. Evan tested the feed, watching the doggy door glisten in the sunlight, a small victory that steadied his nerves. But the absence of Buddy's bark, his eager nudge for a walk, gnawed at him. He checked his phone. Sarah's messages had stopped her silence a taunt. He texted her again. "Bring Buddy back, and we'll talk about the money fairly." No reply came, just but a read receipt, a cold acknowledgement that Sarah was playing hardball. Meanwhile, Sarah was holed up at her parents' ranch-style home across town, where she'd moved in with her ex, Jake, who still lived with his parents. At 32, Sarah's ambition had once drawn her to Asheville's vibrant art scene, but now she was restless, her decision to leave Evan for Jake a retreat into familiarity. Buddy, however, was proving to be more than she'd bargained for. The dog, once a bargaining chip, was now a handful shedding on the couch, needing walks she loathed, leaving messes she'd never cleaned when living with Evan. Her mother, Linda, a stern woman with graying hair, complained daily. "Sarah, you need to handle this dog," she said, vacuuming fur from the living room. Sarah sighed, scrolling through her phone, muttering, "Evan'll cave. He always does." But Evan wasn't caved. He'd driven to the Asheville's community park, a green expanse where locals walked their dogs, hoping Sarah might bring Buddy there. Mia tagged along, her sunglasses perched on her nose, her voice sharp. "If she shows, don't lose it," she warned. "Stay cool, get Buddy's attention." They lingered near the dog park, Evan's heart leaping when he spotted Buddy's golden fur in the distance, tugging at a leash Sarah held. He called softly, "Buddy." The dog's ears perked, his barks echoing across the park, but Sarah yanked the leash, her eyes narrowing as she spotted Evan. "Back off," she snapped, her voice carrying. "He's mine now." Buddy strained toward Evan, whining, but Sarah dragged him away, leaving Evan's chest tight with anger and grief. Back home, Evan sat with Mia, his frustration boiling. "She's using him to hurt me," he said, his hands clenched. "Buddy's miserable with her." I heard him whining. Mia nodded, her voice firm. "She's banking on you breaking," she said. "But you're smarter than her. What about the money?" "Hit her there." Evan's eyes lit up, the joint account balance glowing on his phone. "I could move it," he said. "Crypto wallet. She can't touch it unless I let her." Mia clapped, her laugh bright. "Genius," she said. "Give her a choice, Buddy, or the cash. She'll crack." The next day, Evan transferred the entire account, $20,000, mostly his savings, into a crypto wallet, his fingers steady as he secured the funds. He texted Sarah. "Money's in crypto now. Want your share? Let's talk about Buddy." Sarah's reply was instant, her tone furious. "WTF, Evan? That's our money. Cash it out now." Evan smiled, his plan taking shape. "She's rattled," he told Mia, who raised her coffee mug in a toast. "Keep the pressure on," she said. "She'll slip." But Sarah didn't slip, not yet. She tried to test Evan's defenses, showing up at his house late one night, thinking the cameras were still flawed. Evan's new system caught her every move, her figure skulking near the fence, whispering Buddy's name. The dog wasn't there, but the footage was gold-proof she wasn't giving up. Evan showed it to Officer Daniels, hoping for leverage, but the officer shook his head. "It's trespassing." Maybe, he said, his voice kind but firm. "But without clear intent to steal, it's not enough. Keep documenting. And try to settle this civilly." Evan nodded, his jaw tight, but civil was the last thing on his mind. Days passed and Sarah's messages grew desperate, her tone shifting from anger to negotiation. "Fine, let's split the money. Where's my half?" Evan ignored her, his focus on Buddy. He and Mia staked out the park again, watching Sarah struggle with Buddy, who refused to walk, lying down in protest. Evan's heart ached, but Mia's hand on his shoulder steadied him. "She's cracking," Mia said. "Buddy's wearing her down. Keep pushing." Evan nodded, his resolve hardening. He texted Sarah. "Buddy for your share. Meet me tomorrow. Neutral ground. Bring him or the money stays locked." Sarah's silence stretched into the night, and Evan barely slept, his dreams filled with Buddy's barks. The next morning she replied, "Fine, park noon, bring the cash." Evan exhaled, his pulse racing. The plan was working, but Sarah was unpredictable, and he knew the meeting could go sideways. Mia, ever the strategist, suggested recording the exchange. "Cover your ass," she said, her eyes serious. "She's not above lying." Evan agreed. His phone charged his new cameras, watching the house, no blind spots left. At the Asheville Community Park, Evan waited on a bench, the sun high, the air buzzing with anticipation. Mia stood nearby, pretending to scroll her phone, her sunglasses hiding her watchful gaze. Sarah arrived, Buddy on a leash, his tail wagging, the moment he saw Evan. The dog strained forward, barking joyfully, but Sarah held tight, her blonde hair pulled back, her eyes cold. "Where's the money?" she demanded, her voice sharp. Evan stood, his hands steady, his voice calm. "Crypto's tricky," he said. "I can cash out your share, but I need Buddy first." Sarah's jaw tightened, her grip on the leash, a silent calculation, and Evan knew the moment of truth was here. Would she choose greed or give up the fight? The Asheville Community Park buzzed with midday life, children's laughter, mingling with the rustle of oak leaves under a high Carolina sun. Evan Parker stood by a weathered bench, his lean frame tense, his hazel eyes fixed on the path where Sarah Miller would soon appear with Buddy, his golden Labrador. At 32, Evan had spent weeks navigating the fallout of their breakup, Sarah's theft of Buddy, a wound that cut deeper than her demands for half their joint savings. Now, with the money locked in a crypto wallet and new security cameras guarding his home, Evan held the upper hand, but the meeting ahead was a gamble, and his heart pounded with the stakes. Buddy's freedom, his own sense of justice. Mia Torres. Evan's best friend lingered nearby, her dark curls tucked under a baseball cap, her sunglasses hiding eyes that scanned the park like a hawk. At 35, Mia's sharp wit and loyalty had kept Evan grounded, and now she was his backup, her phone discreetly recording the exchange. "Stay cool," she'd said earlier, her voice firm. "She'll try to twist this. Don't let her." Evan nodded, his hands in his pockets, the weight of his plan steadying him. He'd texted Sarah a final ultimatum: "Bring Buddy to the park noon. We trade dog for your share." Her reply, a curt fine, had set the stage, but Evan knew Sarah's greed could derail everything. At exactly noon, Sarah emerged from the parking lot, Buddy's leash tight in her hand. The dog's golden fur gleamed, but his head was low, his tail wagging hesitantly until he caught Evan's scent. Buddy's bark, deep joyful, echoed across the park, his body straining against the leash paws digging into the grass. Evan's chest tightened, a mix of relief and rage at seeing his dog, his family, tethered to Sarah's control. Sarah, 30, strode forward, her blonde hair pulled back, her blue eyes cold with calculation. "Where's the money, Evan?" she demanded, stopping a few feet away, her grip on Buddy's leash unyielding. Evan kept his voice calm, his hands steady. "It's in crypto. Like I said," he replied. "I can cash out your share, 20% what you put in. But I need Buddy first." Sarah's jaw tightened, her eyes narrowing. 20%. "We agreed. 50-50, she snapped, yanking Buddy's leash to keep him still. The dog whined, his eyes locked on Evan, and Evan's resolve hardened. "You contributed less," he said, his tone even. "And you took my dog. Fair's fair, Sarah. Hand him over, and I'll transfer your cut." Sarah scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. "You're bluffing. Show me the wallet, or Buddy stays with me." Mia shifted slightly, her phone capturing every word, and Evan felt a flicker of confidence. He pulled out his phone, opening the crypto app to show the balance, $20,000, mostly his savings locked in a wallet only he could access. "It's here," he said, holding it up. "But crypto's volatile. I tried cashing out yesterday, and well, let's just say it's not looking good." Sarah's eyes widened, a flash of panic breaking her composure. "What do you mean, not looking good?" she said, her voice rising. "That's my money?" "Evan?" Evan shrugged, his expression neutral. "Markets crash. You know how it is. Gimme Buddy and I'll salvage what I can for you." Sarah's grip on the leash faltered. Buddy tugging harder, his barks growing frantic. She glanced at the dog, then back at Evan, her mind racing. Evan saw the moment her greed tipped the scales. She'd never wanted Buddy, not truly, but the money was her prize, and the fear of losing it was too much. Fine, she spat, shoving the leash toward him. Take the damn dog, but you better transfer my share, or I'll sue you. Evan took the leash, his hands trembling, as Buddy leapt into his arms, licking his face tail, wagging like a metronome. Good boy, Evan whispered, his voice thick relief flooding him as Buddy's warmth anchored him. But Sarah wasn't done. Transfer it now, she insisted, stepping closer, her phone out as if to record him. Evan stood Buddy at his side and shook his head. I'll send you your 20%, he said. Once I'm sure you're not pulling anything. You've got my word. Sarah's face reddened, her voice a hiss. You're a liar, Evan. You planned this. Evan smiled, his eyes steady. And you snuck into my yard, Sarah, and stole my dog. We're even. He turned Buddy, trotting beside him, and walked toward Mia, who gave a subtle thumbs up. Her recording safely stopped. Sarah shouted after him, her voice cracking. This isn't over, Evan. But her words faded into the park's hum, and Evan's focus was on Buddy, whose joyful bounds seemed to erase the weeks of pain. At Mia's car, Evan knelt, burying his face in Buddy's fur, his relief so deep it bordered on tears. She fell for it, Mia said, grinning as she joined them. You played her like a pro. Now what about the money? Evan stood, his smile sly. It's safe, he said. I'll send her her share, $4,000, her actual contribution. Fair's fair. Mia laughed, clapping his shoulder. You're ruthless, she said. I love it. Back at Evan's house, the backyard felt alive again. Buddy chasing a tennis ball across the grass, the new cameras watching every corner, no blind spots left. Evan called Officer Daniels, updating him on the exchange, and the officer's voice was warm. Glad you got your dog back, Mr. Parker, he said. Smart move with the crypto. Keep those cameras on. Evan thanked him, hanging up as Mia arrived with pizza safe from Sarah's reach and a bottle of local craft beer. Celebration time. She declared, setting up in the living room where Buddy sprawled on the couch, his snores a welcome soundtrack. That evening, Evan transferred $4,000 to Sarah's account. His note brief, your share. We're done. Her reply was a string of furious emojis, but Evan blocked her number. His heart light. Mia raised her beer, her eyes twinkling. To Buddy, she said, and to you for outsmarting a snake. Evan clinked his bottle, his grin wide. To family, he said, ruffling Buddy's ears. The dog looked up, his eyes soulful, and Evan felt a peace he hadn't known in weeks. Days later, Evan and Buddy walked the Asheville Park, the same path where the exchange had unfolded. The air was crisp, the mountains a soft silhouette against the sky. Mia joined them, her laughter echoing as Buddy chased a squirrel. You're different, she said, nudging Evan. Stronger. Evan nodded, his gaze on Buddy, who bounded back with a stick. I had to be, he said. For him. He thought of Sarah, her greed costing her more than she'd gained, and felt no anger, only clarity. He'd protected what mattered, not with spite, but with heart. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the house, Evan sat on the porch, Buddy at his feet, the doggy door secure behind them. The cameras hummed a silent promise of safety, and Evan's thoughts settled, a voice clear in his mind. Sometimes you have to fight for what matters, not with anger but with heart. Buddy's my family, and no amount of money could change that. The Asheville night wrapped around them, and Evan knew, with Buddy by his side, he was ready for whatever came next, his home and his heart whole again.